What about the kitchen?
Well, the kitchen, you're spot on here, because the kitchen is the place where the most fires happen in our country. Number one cause of fires are cooking fires. And the situation there is that folks put something on the stove, they begin to cook, especially true if you're frying food. And then maybe the phone rings, or your baby starts to cry, or they turn away from the stove and forget that the stuff is cooking. A fire happens thousands of times across our country every year. So the best way to prevent a cooking fire is to, I think, did Tammy Wynette come from Texas? Whoever sang the song Stand By Your Man, we've adapted it, Stand By Your Pan. And make sure that when you're cooking something on the stovetop, especially using grease, make sure that you've got your eyes on it the whole time. That will help prevent the number one cause of home fires in America.
Now, I see that you have a few other items that look to me like the things you have to be very careful with children.
That's right. We have a couple of things. One of them is a small parts tester, which has an opening here that is about the same size as a child's windpipe. So if you have little ones who live in or visit your home, we have to have it on our minds all the time that things that are small enough to fit in here would be just the size to block a child's windpipe. And these things can be every place. I think if we took a moment and, sort of checked in around the sofa cushions or looked under the chairs or whatever, if we got down on our hands and knees and began to see the world the way our children do, we'll find all kinds of things. It might be coins, it might be older children's toys, all of which are small enough to fit through a small parts tester. And so just making sure that when little ones, particularly under the age of 3, but really any child, that we make sure we're gathering these things up and putting them in a safe place. Now, it's sometimes not that easy to find small parts testers, and so if you can't find one of those, a toilet paper roll is about the same size. So just be thinking anything that'll fit through here is a danger to my little one. The other thing with choking and suffocation is new information I'd love to share with folks in the Dallas area. And that has to do with the leading cause of injury death to children in the first year of life. And that has to do with safe sleeping environments. Now, this is something that's really changed since the time when I brought my babies home from the hospital 20-some years ago. Back then, I created a crib. My mom made beautiful bumpers. My mother-in-law knitted blankets. We had friends give us all kinds of stuffed animals. Everything was in the crib. Well, we now know that all of these things can actually be a danger to babies because it can cause suffocation to the child. Nowadays, the safest place doesn't look very inviting, but its safest thing to do is to have a crib that's completely empty, no bumpers, no blankets, no toys, no nothing, except for the baby on his back or her back in a little zip-up sleeper so that nothing can possibly come over the nose and the mouth area. And to keep the child obviously sleeping on his or her back, certainly through the first 6 months and even into the first year of life, that's the safest place, alone in the crib on her back with nothing else in the crib. And I've talked to moms and grandmas and even some dads out there, and they say, well, that doesn't, when I look in the magazines about nurseries, that's not the kind of crib I see. So it's something we really need from a safety standpoint. We really need to be getting the word out. What is a safe crib? It's an empty crib except for the baby.
We've talked about fires, and you're going to go to Dallas and talk even more about fires, but tell me a little bit about getting out when the smoke is already in the area.
Okay. It's a really important question. Hopefully everybody has practiced so they actually understand what to do. Think about smoke as being even more dangerous than the flames. This is something people don't understand. Usually they think it's the fire that's going to be the most dangerous. No, it's the smoke. So you want to stay away from the smoke. Smoke rises, and for a period of time, the smoke from the fire is going to go up to the ceiling, and then the firefighters would call this banking down. It begins to, the smoke layer begins to bank down lower and lower. If there's smoke in an area where you find yourself, get down on your hands and knees, because for a period of time there'll be cleaner, fresher air down near the floor. The ideal thing, however, is to know you have a fire and get out ahead of that smoke buildup. So having your plan so that at the first sign of smoke, you're going out your door or you're going out your window, avoiding being in that smoky area altogether. But I'll tell you one more thing. I've done fire safety now for probably 25 years, and it was my first beginning in the safety field. It's something I'm very passionate about. The one device that I believe in with all my heart are fire sprinklers. And I brought a little one here to show you. A sprinkler system, we have them in hotels, schools, our shopping centers, almost any place we find ourselves nowadays has a sprinkler system. But 8 out of 10 people who die in fire in America die at home. So we need to have these in people's homes as well. And when you build a new home, it's quite easy to install a sprinkler system. Now sometimes people say, oh, they're big, they're ugly. Not true. They're very small, and they have a kind of sprinkler called the conceal sprinkler, so that if this were up in your ceiling, you wouldn't see it at all. When the fire begins, each sprinkler operates by heat, not smoke. So usually only one sprinkler would get hot enough to release the plate. The water is there all the time. It releases the water, and it puts water on the fire when it's very small, controlling that fire, often putting it out altogether. Even before we can get outside and call the fire department, the sprinkler has already controlled the fire. So you still want to get outside, you want to get your family to safety, but having a sprinkler system prevents that poisonous smoke from going through our home, prevents the fire from spreading, and it's just a little bit of water when that fire is really small. So home fire sprinkler systems are just a tremendous advance in fire safety for America. So I'm a big believer that every home in America should have them eventually, and hopefully someday they will.
Well, in newly constructed homes, do you expect them to be in as you make a purchase?
Well, now the International Code Council has just passed the new code for 2009 that will require sprinkler systems in 1 and 2 family homes beginning in 2011. So I think the momentum is building. There's just such a wonderful tool. And remember we talked about flashover when everything is so dangerous because everything's on fire at once. A sprinkler prevents the fire from getting big enough. It never gets to flashover. That's what's so protective. Smoke alarms are really important. They'll let you know you have a fire, giving you time to get outside, but a smoke alarm won't actually control the fire. I like to say that having a sprinkler in my home is like having a firefighter on duty 24 hours a day, you know, just standing by in case I need them.
Now, this is related to water, and it could be in any area that you have hot water. This is something new, and I thank you for asking about it because I think it's such a smart thing. This is called Hot Stop. Hot water burns like fire, and unfortunately in our country many people are really seriously injured by hot tap water. So there are a few things you can do. Number one, take a thermometer and test the water coming out of your tap. If it's higher than 120 degrees Fahrenheit, it can be very dangerous for little ones and older people who have thinner skin. So the best thing is to turn your water heater down to 120 degrees. But if you live in an apartment building, or maybe you don't have access to your water heater, what do? It's possible to replace the tub spout in your tub and your shower head with this device, Hot Stop. Inside are 2 temperature sensing devices, and if the hot water rises to an unsafe temperature, or if there's a big surge of hot water, it detects it and shuts the flow of water off to just a trickle, which would prevent a devastating burn. Thank you very much. We're out of time, but maybe sometimes we can do this again. I'd love to. Thanks for having me. Thank you for watching.
This has been another edition of Report from Washington featuring Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. You can reach Congresswoman Johnson at 202-225-8885 or 214-922-8885. You can also contact her through her website at http://www.house.gov/ebjohnson.